best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here, too.
And hello, welcome to another edition of the Sackheads Radio Show. I'm your host, Sackhead Clint, live from Freedom Fest 2015 in Las Vegas, Nevada. I am here right now with Mr. Loy Brunson from If You Were President television show. Welcome, sir.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
It's great to have you here. Really appreciate you stopping by and giving us an opportunity to speak with you, find out a little bit more about your projects and some of the things you're working on. Very fascinating. I'd love for you to tell our listeners some of the projects you're working on and engage in a discussion about that.
Okay, yes. Three main projects. The one is the television show in Utah, the Fox affiliate there. It's What Would You Do If You Were President? And hopefully launch it into an American Idol type of show where we can provide a venue for those talented people that have something to say about politics but don't have an opportunity. Just as American Idol was able to find, singers that kind of out of the blue or out of the woodwork, we want to do the same with the political rising stars.
So would it be like a vote off kind of an event also, where you have a group of individuals that start, they talk on topics or something of that nature?
We will have a panel of judges eventually, so that it's sort of like we'll have the hey, this is screwy or this is and we want it to be constitutionally founded. We'll have a constitutional expert there as well, and we'll say, hey, Article 2, is the enumerated powers of the executive branch, and where do you get the authority to do that? So.
Excellent. Now, will this be? Do you envision this to be a program where you're actually going out, you're seeking candidates, and then at the conclusion of the show, is this somebody that potentially could run?
Well, that's the goal. Yes, we're going to hopefully, after we get going, have a huge, pretty good cash prize, like $1 million after we're syndicated. That's the goal, and they could take that money and they could fund their own campaign with it, or buy a house or whatever they want.
And there'll be other assistance perhaps along the way too. I think it's great because we have so many people are career politicians now, and we've kind of gotten away from the servant leaders, those that want to lead because they generally want to serve their country, and a show like that sounds like it gives regular folks the opportunity to get exposure and kind of show the nation that these people do exist. You don't have to go to Harvard Law School and have some degree in whatever to become president. Our greatest presidents, George Washington, did not have the greatest, collegiate Ivy League education by any stretch of the imagination. Great man, right? So
plus they don't have to quit their job; they can just take a Saturday or something, come in and do the audition and get on the show.
Yeah, exactly. That sounds like a great idea. And you're also working on a writing project as well, correct?
Yes, I've discovered some new concepts that have never been published before in the history of America. According to the National Center for Constitutional Studies, they've published 12 million Constitution booklets. The owners told me that my concepts they've never heard of, and they want to publish them as well. So,
and what sort of concepts are you talking about?
Well, one of them is I found the interpretation clause. I found the governing clause within the Constitution that demands the Constitution only be interpreted in ways that defend your unalienable rights. That's Amendment 9. It's the only clause in the Constitution that has a word that means interpret. And since we are governed by interpretation, I coined it as the governing clause. It's just one sentence. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Then you can say, well, what are those rights retained by the people? Well, the Declaration of Independence tells us. They're unalienable because they're from God. So I tell my friends that don't believe in God, I said, well, you better embrace this concept because it's going to protect your rights better than if you believe or support the other.
And then so that sounds like even the United States Supreme Court could not overreach and interpret things or grant powers or make demands of states.
Oh my gosh, if 10% of the people had just a basic fundamental knowledge of the Constitution, the Supreme Court wouldn't get away with half the crap they're getting away with.
Right, but Congress won't do anything about it, right? They have the power of the purse. And
the people could hold them accountable because most of the Congress have never read the Constitution.
Right, so how do you get this out? How do you get this word out?
I have a book that's coming out. This booklet I've sold about 4,000 copies, but the next one is going to be marketed as an ebook, and it's called The Devil in the Constitution and How to Kick Him Out. It'll be launched in a few weeks, and the marketers think they're going to sell millions of them. So we're excited.
Excellent. So what are some of the other concepts that you found in the Constitution that you have written on? I know you talked about the Ninth Amendment. Was there anything else in there?
Well, yeah, it connects with money. The Constitution is mostly about money and slavery. Money was probably the most important concept. Amendment 5 states that you cannot have your private property taken from you for public use without just compensation. Well, people read that. They need to realize that your money is your property. And so what is taxation if it isn't having your private property taken from you for public use without just compensation? So then the question is begged, well, how are we going to fund government? Well, Abraham Lincoln showed us how to do that. He was out of money, and he, instead of borrowing at 37% interest from a private bank that was creating money, what did he do? He created money with the Congress, $450 million, funded the Civil War, sparked the Industrial Revolution, and that comes to my $100 trillion coin idea, sort of spawned by Congressman Grayson and others who have talked about $1 trillion coin. $100 trillion coin, $50 trillion could go to the states, $50 trillion to the federal government. That would wipe out the debt completely and wipe out any need for taxation. And as long as the spending is constitutional and you don't have giveaways, you don't have socialism, we have a strong currency without debt, without taxation.
So you talk about the $1 trillion coin.
It'd be $100 trillion
or
coin.
A $100 trillion
Yes.
coin. Are you talking literally?
Literally a coin, because Article 1, Section A contains the enumerated power of the Congress to coin money and determine the value thereof. So it'd be totally constitutional. And what would we do with the coin? Simply deposit it in the congressional spending account, hand it over to the Treasury Department. It'd be the government's money, and then they could write checks to pay off the federal debt completely.
So would it be something that a new $100 trillion coin would be deposited annually? Is this or just a one-time?
The Congress has the power to do it 1,000 times. But if the spending is limited to constitutional spending, and then you wouldn't have a problem with overspending and inflating the dollar. You start giving it away. If the government started giving it away, then you'd have a crash. There's never been a historical time when paper money, fiat money, has crashed without sabotage, without socialism, or giving the money away, or without counterfeiting. So it would work.
So what would give this coin value?
When President Lincoln was out of money and was forced to borrow at 37% interest, that was his question to Colonel Dick Taylor, his advisor. And Colonel Dick Taylor says the reason they will accept it is because it'll be the law. It'll be legal tender. And that's why we accept the paper money today, is because it's legal tender. If the Federal Reserve didn't have that legal tender stamp on it from the federal government, that money no one would use it.
So would this replace paper money?
It would still be paper money. So actually the government could take over the Federal Reserve, just make it federal, and they could seize all the assets from the Federal Reserve shareholders, which are into the trillions, return those assets to the taxpayers, which would mean literally a refund for everyone that's ever paid taxes in the United States.
So let me ask you this: do you think the Federal Reserve is a problem?
Well, it definitely is. Yeah, it's the biggest. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, it is the problem. And someone says, I was interviewed, I think, by one of the network affiliates yesterday a little bit, and they says, what do you think of what Donald Trump said? And I gave my opinion. Then I said, as soon as a presidential candidate tells us that there's no need for taxation and that we can wipe out the debt with doing what Abraham Lincoln did and JFK started to do, then he's got my attention. And we don't have a candidate yet that sees this basic, fundamental, but most extremely important point.
Has anybody talked about it since Abraham Lincoln's time? I know you said JFK started to go down that direction.
Well, it's interesting because Congressman Grayson said, what would we do with $1 trillion coin? And I just got so excited when he said that in his office, because it's like, oh my gosh, we're there.
Right.
You give it to the Treasury. Give it to an IRS agent. Say, deposit it. It's that simple.
And would you deposit that then? It would. So let me ask you this: would your goal would be to abolish the Fed?
Oh, absolutely, or take it back, make it Fed.
But
we need to go to the individuals, the private banksters, that have assets, the trillionaires, and take those assets back and return those to the taxpayers and to the people whose parents have paid taxes.
So what can our listeners do to help you out and to get educated on these issues?
They can watch for my book. If they have questions or want to get more information, they can look for Loy, L-O-Y, Brunson, B-R-U-N-S-O-N, on YouTube. I have some videos there. But we're about to really launch the great stuff. There's a phone number they can call, too. It's 801-735-5777.
And that phone number is?
That's the office phone number. And if they want to get more materials, they can call that number, leave a message.
Excellent. And the name of your book again, sir, coming out?
It's going to be The Devil in the Constitution and How to Kick Him Out.
Great. And the name of your show?
If You Were President. Yeah, and then also, if they want to send an email, that might be the best thing. And they can just send that to brunsonborough@aol.com.
Great. Sir, I really appreciate your time, taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you.
Certainly some interesting concepts. We'd love talking to you. We'd love to talk to you again
Great.
sometime if you'd
I
be
would love
available
to.
for that.
Just let me know, and I'll let you know when the book comes out.
We'll do. We'll really
Great.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
That's it. This has been another edition of Sackheads Radio Show with Sackheads Clint again, live from Freedom Fest 2015, Las Vegas, Nevada. Sacco, play us out.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here, too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Sack News. Sack News.
Radio.
Sack News. Sack News.
Radio.
Sack.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
In America.
Into the bylaw.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.